When it comes to space combat games, we all know the classics like Wing Commander and Freelancer. But there was another that, despite its gripping plot and intuitive mechanics, unfortunately faded into obscurity. I'm talking about Starlancer, of course, released in 2000 for Windows and Dreamcast, marking the first project from Digital Anvil, a studio co-founded by the legendary game designer Chris Roberts. Oh great, this guy, the legendary hack fraud. But, believe it or not, before running the greatest scam in video game history, he used to make actually good games. And Starlancer is thankfully one of them, delivering an experience that blends fast-paced dogfighting with a rich narrative, all set within a galaxy torn apart by war. Even though it was critically well received, it failed commercially, ending up overshadowed by its spiritual successor, Freelancer, and all the other space sims of the time. Which is a shame, because beneath its aging graphics and linear nature lies a game that still offers engaging action and a brutal take on space warfare. But enough glazing, let's grab our space helmet, enter our spaceship, and shoot our space lasers as we explore what makes Starlancer such a special experience. And if you enjoy this and like obscure old games, consider subscribing, joining the Discord, or supporting me on Patreon. Alright, let's get right to it.
We have just received an urgent request from Alliance High Command. The Alliance needs you.
Commander Romanov, commence the attack.
You are the 45th Volunteers. We have a long and proud history, which we must now fight to preserve. We are our people's only hope.
Damn it. Execute them all.
Prepare to launch second salvo!
The year is 2160, and in classic sci-fi tradition, mankind has colonized the solar system, dividing itself into two opposing factions. On one side stands the Alliance, composed of powers such as the USA, Britain, Japan, and everyone's favorite dynamic duo, France and Germany. Thank God they didn't add Greece as well. We'd probably still use F-16s with rockets strapped on them to achieve space flight. Opposing the good guys is the Coalition, a stereotypically evil power formed by Russia, China, and the Middle East. Yeah, and they present that as a futuristic scenario. We certainly didn't wait that long for that to happen in real life. Anyway, after setting up a thinly veiled extension of Cold War tensions, the game begins with the Coalition executing a devastating sneak attack on Alliance forces, overrunning a bunch of planets and utterly destroying the Italian and French fleets. Oh no, who could have seen that one coming? The Alliance is now forced into a defensive position, and from its remains, a new unit is cobbled together to regain its lost territory, called the 45th Volunteer Squadron. We assume the role of a random rookie pilot, and our mission is pretty clear: kill them all and let God sort them out. Right from the start, the stakes are high. Missions are framed by briefings filled with the appropriate military jargon and pre-rendered cutscenes that establish the fact that we are in a world of shit. There is a constant sense that the Alliance is fighting a losing war against all odds, adding a very palpable tension to each engagement. Sure, the storytelling earns 0 points for originality or complexity, but still, Starlancer does a great job of delivering a tale of surprise attacks, shifting battle lines, and desperate last stands, making us feel like a small but still crucial cog in a much larger war machine. Plus, it's the perfect excuse to justify blowing up the fuck out of everyone. What more could you need? Moving on to the game itself, I have a confession to make. Usually, when there is a PC version available, I'll try my best to play it, no matter the system incompatibilities. Despite its age and my Microsoft Windows 11, I managed to get Starlancer to run pretty smoothly. However, there was a different issue that made me avoid the PC version, and that was the controls. Playing with a gamepad was out of the question, even if I used key mapping software, so all I was left with was the keyboard controls, which were truly a product of our time. They didn't make the game unplayable, but it was a real hassle stretching my hands in weird ways, trying to make the most out of my SIP. Okay, remap the controls then? Well, you see, I'm lazy, so we'll go with the Dreamcast version instead. It's essentially the same game in all the important areas, so don't worry about it too much. In any case, if you've ever played stuff like Wing Commander, you'll feel right at home here. That's because at its core, Starlancer is a space combat sim that embraces a kinda realistic approach to flying and dogfighting. Our ship has a sense of inertia while still being highly maneuverable, allowing high-speed chases requiring precision and quick reflexes. Or, you know, just go full speed till you reach the target, then stand perfectly still while trying to follow the aiming reticle, like the classic space fighting experience dictates. But it's not just about shooting down our enemies, as we have to manage our shield, weapon cooldowns and missile supply, while avoiding taking too much damage and destroying wave after wave of enemy fighters and capital ships. Like I mentioned before, the missions play out in a linear fashion, with a variety of objectives like enemy recon, full-scale fleet assaults, and everyone's favorite escort duties. While every mission feels very cinematic and has an immersive atmosphere, enhancing the game's action, after only a few hours the game's limitations become painfully apparent, since no matter what, at the end of the day, all we'll be doing is taking down a set number of enemies over and over again. Besides some branching paths we can follow on some missions, there is no real freedom or exploration like the later open-world space sims. Still, in my opinion, it's not really needed, since this linear structure allows for some tightly scripted sequences that emphasize the dramatic tension of each encounter. We don't have to fight this war all alone though, since there is also a fleshed out squad management element to the gameplay. We can issue various commands to our buddies, like ordering them to attack specific targets, help out in tough situations, or regroup if shit hits the fan. It added a wrinkle of tactical depth to the combat for sure, but I rarely used it, since the AI can be inconsistent sometimes. But we have to take what we can get and make full use of all our ship's abilities and weaponry, because the game doesn't fuck around. A simple dogfight can turn into a massacre fairly quickly, and the enemies will jump at the slightest mistake to shred you to pieces. It makes for an exhilarating experience, but sometimes it can be too frustrating to handle. That's how it is in real life too, I suppose. The game does a great job showing you how hard surviving an intergalactic war can really be. And if the campaign is not enough to satisfy your bloodlust, there are also a few additional modes to enjoy, like an instant action time attack mode and of course multiplayer, which is unfortunately dead now. It's been more than 20 years after all. You could try finding or making some private server or go online on your Dreamcast, but let's be honest, we're all too lazy to go through that hassle. And that's fine, because the single player experience overall is full of exciting action that will keep you engaged, until you become too drained from its repetitive nature, that is. For its time, Starlancer was visually impressive. Although we'll be fighting in the vast black emptiness of space, the ships are detailed and the battlefields are filled with debris and all sorts of cool space stuff, while the explosions and the effects are on point, helping us immerse ourselves into the game world. The way the pilot controls pivot and move around within the cockpit shows the amount of effort and love the developers were willing to put into making the experience as immersive as possible. Sure, the cutscenes show their age, with their stiff animations and plastic-like textures, but that was the height of early 3D rendering back then. Other than that, the game's presentation is mostly on point, with a sound design that truly steals the show. The soundtrack, although not having the bombastic orchestral compositions we'd expect, fits well the game's dark and foreboding atmosphere, and does a great job reminding us we are in a nightmarish war with no end in sight. Combined with the excellent sounds of laser blasts, explosions and the cheesy voice acting from your wingmen and superiors, the game's audio landscape is rich, vivid and just the right amount of depressing. War is hell after all. Looking back at Starlancer, it's clear the game was a product of its time, and I mean that both in a good and a bad way. Its gripping combat system, engaging storyline, and very immersive atmosphere make it a worthwhile experience for fans of shooting tiny 3D models against a black background. On the other hand, its linear nature, repetitive missions, and sometimes outdated presentation prevent it from becoming a true classic fondly remembered by all. Should you play it though? Yeah, for sure! If you love retro space shooters and enjoy simple non-stop action, it's the perfect game for a few hours of mindless fun. If you want something more involved or complex though, you're better off with Freelancer. It's the same game, but better. Even so, Starlancer remains a compelling, if somewhat flawed hidden gem that definitely deserves a place in the pantheon of space combat sims, if only as a reminder of an era when Chris Roberts would make complete games instead of scamming people for virtual spaceships. And that's all I had to say about Starlancer. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, comment your thoughts below and subscribe for more stuff. You know how it goes. You can also support me on Patreon or become a channel member for early access to my videos and other perks. Have a great day and until next time, take care and have fun.